Hey guys, welcome to Timeless Mysteries. Trying to find my chat. I know there's got to be some here, and it's not showing. Okay, so I'm trying something new, and it doesn't look like it's working. Bear with me, guys.
Do you love?
It worked an hour ago. Okay, it shows everything's working, but I can't see the chat, which is a problem, and I don't know how to refresh the chat. There it is. Hey, Maribel. I got it working. Hey, Olga. So today I'm using a different method for this live stream, which is kind of good and kind of bad. First, it's good because it's free, but it's bad because I don't really know how to use it. So it looks like everything's going to work fine. How's everyone today? Good, you guess? What do you mean, you guess? It's got to be good, right? Yeah, I'm having a good day. I slept in, so that's always good. But I was just trying to get everything set up for today, and I realized I was 5 minutes late. So I don't know why I'm always late. At least I didn't try to get my suit on, because then I would have been really late. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get started with what I have. So the original plan today was to just kind of touch on the Cook case lightly, and while the author focused on her process and interviews, I had researched other cases I could potentially bring into the discussion, so she wouldn't have to explain the ending of this Billy Cook story. But since that fell through and she had to cancel, now I get to talk about the whole thing. So yesterday I started researching this case more in detail. And it's funny, I wrote out a bunch of stuff and I can't find it. And it's always like that. Geez. Oh, that's why. Looking in the wrong spot. Maybe. Nope, I don't know what I did with it. It just... it's funny. I set up all this stuff every single time I lose the things that I worked on, because I save it in the wrong place and then it disappears, or it goes to the cloud and somehow turns out to a revised earlier version or something, and it kind of messes me up. But yeah, here we go. So, I really like the thumbnail. I think that's why I didn't change this live stream, because I could have easily, just talked about Chris Watts or something. But this case is actually pretty interesting. and I didn't want to waste the thumbnail. But earlier in the week, I did some research, in-depth research, on a very similar case, a man named Charles Starkweather. Some of you probably know that one from the Bruce Springsteen album, Nebraska. Oh, yeah, I have some audio I was going to play for you guys. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about that too. And I've got some actual trivia that's like in like a trivia game format. So it's going to cover, songs that have murderers in them. And also some just general true crime, some, older crimes that you may not know the first time a school shooting happened and things like that. So I think I've got quite a bit of stuff we can cover today. But let me just go ahead and find... Well, I guess before we start, let me just cover some things. I've got my notes here. Yeah, it's not the right one. There it is. So I had this whole thing, so I'm going to go ahead and read this because I wrote this stupid introduction so that I wouldn't sound like a complete moron as I try to explain what we're going to talk about today. It's funny because I couldn't find it, and I ended up sounding like a complete idiot. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Timeless Mysteries. I'm so happy to have you here. So a little behind the scenes honesty. I came across this case about a week ago. I actually had an author lined up for today who wrote a book about this case. We were going to talk about her writing process and her research and how she put it all together. But she had to back out yesterday morning, so here I am trying to cover the same stuff. So yesterday I sat down and tried to put something together myself, and I typically brag that I can write like 2,000 words in a day pretty regularly, but after about 8 or 9 hours yesterday, I actually only wrote about 800 words. So it's a very short summary of Billy Cook's childhood. But honestly, I think it's some of the best writing I've done. I really enjoy writing it. And if it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't have realized how much I enjoy it. I actually love the research too. So I've been writing more and more fiction lately, and I find myself still researching locations and procedures, and even folklore and things like that to put into the stuff I write. I think the initial discovery is almost always the most interesting because it's so fresh. So a lot of my true crime stuff comes with these little literary flourishes that might kind of take away from the truth of the story, but I do lean in on the facts, and I do try to keep an somewhat academic approach when I do this. So I did forget to tell you guys that I did finish my son's book for Christmas, that fantasy story. He got a physical copy for Christmas, and that was a difficult promise to keep. And of course, a couple days ago, I read the first few pages again, and I realized that the first couple of chapters, I had thought that I had finished them, and then I expanded one chapter into like 5 or 6 chapters. And so when I'm doing the rewrite process and the editing, I was like, well, I don't have to look at these chapters because everything should work. It's really good already. But, I'm like 3 or 4 sentences in, and I realize that I actually changed a few tiny things. So I don't know if it hurts anything. I don't think it really would be caught by the reader, you know, at least not on the first read through. But for me, I wrote it, so I know. But if you're interested, you can look me up on Amazon under R.F. Bradford. So yeah, like I said earlier, the original plan for today was to kind of talk about the Billy Cook case. He's a spree killer, and we weren't going to go into all of the details. But now that I don't have a guest today, I can talk about the whole case. There's lots of other videos on this crime also that you can find on YouTube. So because of the last minute researching and writing, I'd love for you guys to let me know if I get any of the details wrong or if something sounds off a bit. You know, I'm pretty new to this case. So with that little disclaimer, we can go ahead and see if I could play that audio for you. I don't know if it'll let me actually play audio here, and I don't remember which one it was. I think it was that one. Okay, so now I know which one it is. I can probably try to find it. If it doesn't work, I can probably play it from here with my microphone. If this don't work, I got a backup, so don't worry. We can do a summary for sure. Where is it? Well, I don't think it's working. It's kind of weird. But let's just go ahead and play this one. You know, I tested all of this out a little while ago, and it worked. Okay. Video capture. That is not it. What the heck? That is weird. I don't know why it's not playing. It's funny like that. It looks like, what the heck is that? That's probably why it's not playing. Here we go. I found it. It's just buried in this mess of stuff here. Give me one more second. So I guess this is the downside of using OBS. This is like a mess of like windows, and you can't click on everything without moving other stuff out of the way. It's weird.
Down shack near Joplin, Missouri. Him and his family lived in a rundown shack on Oliver Street. His mother died.
So this is a YouTube channel. It's pretty
guys,
small.
Welcome back.
They've
if
got
you are new here.
a pretty good
Hi,
summary
my name
of
is
what happened
Shayna,
in the
and in my
story.
little
We'll
corner
watch
of the
some of
internet,
it.
we talk about spooky history of all kinds. If that sounds like something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell because I'm here for you on Wednesdays. I also have a podcast called Spooky History with Shayna Blake, and that is where the audio of this video will be. Today's story happened right in my backyard, and believe it or not, I hadn't heard of it until a friend of mine told me about it. So today, we are going to be talking about Cockeyed Billy, the spree killer. William Cook Jr., also known as Billy Cook, was the fifth of 8 children and was born on December 23rd of 1928 in a tumble-down shack near Joplin, Missouri. Him and his family lived in a rundown shack on Oliver Street. His mother died when he was only 5 years old. And they were left with his father, who honestly was a piece of work. His father was a miner who was also an abusive alcoholic. Not long after Billy's mother died, their father would oddly move the family into an old mine shaft where they would live like animals until their father would end up just completely abandoning them altogether. After the children were taken by social services, the social workers were able to find homes for all the children except Billy. Now, Billy had what they called a deformity. He was born with a growth over his right eye, and it would later be removed, but it would cause his right eyelid to always sag, which meant it would never really close all the way. Now, this would lead to merciless teasing, which is believed that the anger we'll see later on is where it stemmed from. Now, people were disgusted by his droopy right eye. Some people were even superstitious and would call it the evil eye. Honestly, I don't think it looks that bad. I mean, I've seen pictures, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'll of course have a picture of him, and you can kind of tell it's really not that bad. But back then, it was a big deal, I guess, if you weren't perfect. So since no one would take Billy in, the courts would eventually agree to pay a woman to take care of him. But the relationship between Billy and his foster mother was severely lacking. This woman didn't really seem to care about anything but the money, which she was receiving for taking care of him. An example of this is 2 years in a row, the foster mother would give Billy a bicycle for Christmas, only to have it repossessed because she wouldn't make the payments for it. Now, that might seem like not a big deal, but to him it was. So Billy didn't really have the best upbringing, obviously. He would eventually be placed in boarding school, and it was there in boarding school is when he would start to show signs of violence and psychopathic behavior. He would throw tantrums and make demands and would end up abandoning school altogether at the age of 12. Another foster family would try to take him in, but by this time he was already set in his ways. There was no changing. Now, Billy would begin a life of running the streets and committing petty thefts. Now, all of this would lead him to his first arrest, and he would tell the judge that he would rather be placed in a reformatory than return to his original foster mother. But instead, one of his older sisters would end up taking him in. But soon after this, he would go and rob a Joplin taxi driver, which would put him right back in the reformatory. He was simply described by others as neat, quiet, and with nice handwriting, but could not control his anger. His behavior would just escalate from here. The reformatory would have no choice but to send him to the Missouri State Penitentiary, where he would become a much feared inmate whose conduct was erratic and always violent.
So I'm going to stop that there for a sec and try to get the intro for this video that I actually wrote yesterday. I recorded it so that I don't actually have to stutter over my own words. I just didn't save it as a video file, and apparently I can't share audio files, which is a little weird. But I have made it into a video file. There's no actual video, but now if I can only find it, it's buried in here. I don't know how. This is crazy. Media source 1. I don't know. I guess maybe I do have to continue paying for StreamYard. Because look at that. That's even wrong there.
Small towns and the lonely stretches of highway where the
Oh,
land
I can hear it.
flattens into
It's
an
somewhere.
different geometry of back roads, and a shuffling landscape presses against the horizon, where a raised thumb walking along the edges of civilization becomes both invitation and augury. In the
I
winter
found
of
it.
1950, along those
I don't know
desolate
how
rivers of
people can
asphalt
just fly
that
through this
stitch
stuff and
together
do
the
this
American
way, but
Southwest. There's a certain
let me-
species of American horror that blooms in the
and turn up the volume. Apparently it's not very loud.
a certain species of American horror. There's a certain species of American horror that blooms in the spaces between small towns and the lonely stretches of highway where the land flattens into an indifferent geometry of back roads, and a shuffling landscape presses against the horizon, where a raised thumb walking along the edges of civilization becomes both invitation and augury. In the winter of 1950, along those desolate ribbons of asphalt that stitched together the American Southwest, such a horror had begun to manifest. It wore the face of a man with a drooping eyelid and knuckles that spelled out both a young man's past and prophecy: hard luck. William Edward Cook Jr. was born on December 23, 1928 in Joplin, Missouri. Joplin had been a boom town in the way that all boom towns are. Zinc and lead money pouring in, saloons and brothels sprouting overnight. Everyone selling something, everyone performing prosperity with the forced smiles and the implied happiness of carnival barkers who know the show closes Sunday. But there was nothing happy about the circumstances of Billy Cook's arrival into this world. His mother would die when he was 5, leaving behind 8 children, with their father whose relationship with alcohol had long since curdled into something malevolent. The elder Cook was a mining man with hands like shovels and a soul that had long departed from his living body. He would leave all 8 of his children in an abandoned mine outside Joplin, huddled in the mineral darkness. The youngest still unable to comprehend the magnitude of the betrayal, the eldest perhaps beginning to understand that the world contained cruelties for which there are no adequate words. This was Billy Cook's first lesson in human nature, and it would prove indelible. The children were separated, scattered among foster homes like seeds cast upon rocky ground. Billy, with his congenial ptosis, which if you don't know is a drooping of the right eyelid that gave his face a perpetual sneer of contempt because his eye couldn't fully close. Billy found himself particularly difficult to place. The deformity marked him, set him apart. Children, with their primal cruelty, called him names. Adults regarded him with suspicion, as if the asymmetry on his face was a window into some corresponding asymmetry of his soul. Perhaps in the end they were right, though one must ask whether they helped create what they feared. Modern developmental psychology recognizes the profound impact of early childhood trauma on the formation of personality. The abandonment Billy Cook experienced at age 5 represents what attachment theorists would call a catastrophic rupture of the primary caregiving relationship. John Bowlby's work on attachment theory, though not published until after Cook's crimes, provides a framework for understanding how such early betrayal can fundamentally alter a child's capacity for human connection. The child learns at the deepest neurological level that the world is unsafe, that caregivers cannot be trusted, that survival depends on the self alone. But abandonment was merely the overture. The foster homes that followed composed the symphony of Billy Cook's education and violence. He was beaten, he was starved, he was locked in closets and cellars. One foster father, according to later accounts, would extinguish cigarettes on the boy's flesh. The drooping eye, already a source of mockery, became a symbol of everything that was supposedly wrong with this unwanted child, proof to his tormentors that he was somehow less than human, and therefore deserving of less than human treatment. By his teenage years, Billy Cook had become what the psychologists of his era might have called a constitutional psychopath, though contemporary forensic psychology would likely diagnose him with antisocial personality disorder comorbid with complex post-traumatic stress. This distinction matters less than the outcome. Here was a young man whose capacity for empathy had been systematically destroyed, replaced by a cold and calculating rage that would eventually consume everyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. One might reasonably ask, what kind of a man leaves 8 children alone in a mine? The answer, or at least part of it, lies in 3 words: the Great Depression. Billy's father was a miner, and Billy was born just before the financial collapse. By the time the boy was 5, the mining work had dwindled to almost nothing. Men were fighting for scraps. Desperation had become ordinary. The Great Depression conjures images of breadlines and starvation, of a nation dying on its feet, but life expectancy actually rose during those years, from 57 years old to 63 between 1929 and 1933. The Depression didn't kill people the way famine or pestilence would. What it killed was hope. It was the perception of the collapse that actually collapsed the world around them. Billy was born into the Great Depression. If environment shaped him into a monster, we have to ask what shaped his father into one first. But the real question is this: did Billy Cook inherit his monstrous nature from his father? Was the monster already inside of him? Was that drooping eyelid a minor defect? This bare amoral fact, this neuromuscular error, no more meaningful than a birthmark, the physical manifestation of the monster born within him? Or did this one small defect subjugate him to constant torment and torture until his kindness was eroded away into nothingness? Did he ever have a chance? Welcome to Timeless Mysteries. Please like and subscribe. Today we're going to talk about one of the most startling cases that I've come across recently, though you may have heard of the song inspired by this crime. Riders on the storm. Into this world we are born, into this world we are thrown. There is a killer on this road, his brain squirming like a toad. Ring any bells? Well, it should.
So, yeah, that was what I spent all day writing yesterday, so I didn't actually get into the actual crimes. But this guy is pretty scary. I think I've got some images I could share if I can find them. Is the other part of that. Let me see. It should work. So. Nope. I don't get what order I'm supposed to have these things in to get them to show up, but they're not showing up. That's weird. So if any of you guys know how to use OBS, it's free. I can't afford StreamYard anymore. I don't have guests all the time, so that was the only reason why I had it. Because it's so much easier to use, but there's some features here that are actually better. Oh my god. It's like it only works sometimes. I can't figure out what screen is what. Ah. Ta-da. So that is an AI image that I made. But I have other ones. So Billy Cook. We just went over his childhood. So he lived through some really extensive trauma, I'm trying to get my camera back. I think it goes there. So, yeah, there I am. He had some crazy trauma in his early life. He grew up, his dad abandoned him in a mine shaft, abandoned mine shaft. They were living in a cave after the mother died. The man was an alcoholic, and he was mean, and he didn't take care of his kids. And then he actually left them in there. And then when they went into foster care, they got all split up. And because of Billy's ptosis, the eye thing, he, was picked on. He was, he wasn't adopted. Nobody wanted him, But he was born on December 23rd in Joplin, Missouri. His mother died in 1933 when he was 5. His father was an alcoholic. He was abandoned with 7 of his siblings. They were separated into foster homes, so I've kind of covered all of that. The ptosis is the weird eye thing that he had. And then while he was in, I guess it was a group home maybe, but while he was trying to get in foster care or in foster care, he was starved, burned, and beaten. He got his first arrest when he was 12 years old. He was in and out of reform schools. The tattoos on his fingers, let me see if I could show that too. The tattoos, well, you can't see it. And there we go. You can see it says hard luck. This one is more clear. Yeah, are you talking about Riders on the Storm? Yeah, I think I've done that song in karaoke before, but I never knew what the words were. So, Molly, how are you today? So, yeah, he was in and out of reform schools. He had the tattoo, hard luck, put across his knuckles. He was released from Missouri State Penitentiary in 1950. Oops. I just lost my Word document here with my notes in it. So, yeah, he got released in 1950. At December 30th, 1950, he abducted a mechanic Lee Archer in Lubbock, Texas, and released him. Then he picked up on the same day the Moser family. That was Carl and Thelma and their 3 children. He held them hostage for 3 days. On January 2nd, he murdered all 5 of the Mosers near Joplin. He murdered Robert Dewey, who was a traveling salesman in Oklahoma. He fled to California. He went into Mexico. He got captured in Tijuana, which is, interesting because they couldn't go get him out of Mexico because there's no extradition there. And from what I gathered, they actually dragged him across the border, and that's where police picked him up. He was extradited to Oklahoma, and then he received the death penalty in 1952. He got the gas chamber in San Quentin. His last words were, "I hate everybody's guts, and everybody hates mine." Molly, you'd be surprised. It's -7 or 8, I think, this morning. What I saw, it might have warmed up now, but 68 is like, that's a heat wave here. I don't think it even got up to 70 more than once or twice last summer here in Anchorage. But his crimes were inspired Jim Morrison and the Doors with they wrote the song "Riders on the Storm." Let me see if I can pull up the lyrics for that one. So I think I'm starting to figure out how this stuff works. Now, if I could figure out how to get the page to change. Let's see, Riders on the Storm. So I've got the thing here. Let me see if it'll let me change this picture. That is... Oh, that's why. That's not the right thing. Oh, that's why. It's the window capture that I'm looking for. So let me just delete that. That might have been part of my problem this whole time. Nope. The window capture is not there. That's the device capture, the window capture. There it is. Now where did it go? It was there. Something is blocking it. And I'm sorry, guys. With StreamYard, it is easier to pull stuff up, but at the same time, it's actually almost the same process. Like, I still have the same issues. I can see my thing, but it's just not pulling it up. Like, it's just not there. Now that's weird because I just deleted everything. But here's the Riders on the Storm lyrics. It is, there's a killer on the road. His brain is squirming like a toad. That's the main line. But the whole idea of this song is we're born into who we are. Our environment, and I think that's what this song is actually about. Did Billy have a chance? I don't think he did. I think he was always going to end up, a violent criminal based off of his upbringing. So he was born into a cruel world, and then he was thrown into it, harder, and it just got worse for him. Every day was just worse and worse. me see if I can get this thing. Oh. So I'm going to play some more of that video that...
Hey guys, welcome back. If you are new here, hi, my name is Shayna.
Wow. So I want to play some more of this video because it kind of goes into more of the details of everything. If I can get it right. There we go. I just got to find the play somewhere down here. And again, guys, this is her YouTube channel. It doesn't look like she has very many subscribers, so you can go there and, well, maybe if I can, there, you can go here and watch her video and let her know that, you know, we saw her video. But I'm just going to play through some of it, not the whole thing.
This car was 33-year-old Carl Moser with his wife Thelma, who was 29, and their three kids.
This story
Ronald,
is really
who was 7,
tragic.
Gary was 5, and Pamela was 3. Now the family was heading out to start their vacation to the southwest, but right after picking up Billy, he would pull out his .32 caliber pistol and told Carl to drive. They covered 2,500 miles, driving through Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. They would end up stopping in Wichita Falls, Texas, and that's where Carl would attempt to free his family. So Carl and Billy would go inside the convenience store, and there Carl would grab Billy and would wrestle with him. But the attendant didn't know what was really going on, and he pointed an old .44 caliber at both the men and ordered them to go outside. Carl would beg with the attendant to help him, shouting, "He's been in my car all day, and he's got a gun and says he'll kill us." But the attendant just shouted back to let him loose. And it was then that Billy broke free and pulled out his gun. And when the attendant saw this, he locked the door of his store, and Billy and the family would drive off. Well, the attendant ultimately felt bad and wanted to try to help. So he ran to his truck and decided to run them down. But when Billy saw that the attendant was gaining on them, Billy started firing shots at him, which prompted the attendant to turn around. Now, after this, Billy demanded Carl to drive to Carlsbad, New Mexico. Now from there, they drove to El Paso and Houston, Texas, and then Winthrop, Arkansas. But after all that driving, Billy would end up having them drive back to Joplin, Missouri. Now, as you can imagine, the kids and Thelma would really start to get restless. I completely understand. Even having my 2 boys in the car for too long, they just get stir crazy. And put that on top of the stress of a person like Billy threatening to kill everyone if they didn't listen, that's gotta be terrible. So when they were in Joplin, Billy would tell the family that he would leave them unharmed and tie them in a field so that he would have time to get away. Billy then cut strips of cloth from their clothing and bind the parents' hands together and gagged them. He then used a bright yellow cord cut from the children's cowboy hats and bound their wrists. Now Billy was not a man of his word, however. He did not show any mercy, and he would end up shooting the whole family, even their dog, while they were all in the car, which is so sad to hear. It's tragic. And then Billy would just drive until 3 a.m. with all of them dead in the car. Who does that? He would finally stop in a mine shaft in Chitwood district of Joplin near 3rd and Maiden Lane. Once he disposed of them, he would jump back in the car and headed for Tulsa. In a later interview with the police, he would state, "I arrived in Tulsa as people were going to work. I was excited and didn't want to be seen with all of the blood in the car. I swung off on the side street and headed west on a dirt road. I slid into a muddy ditch and had to leave the car." End quote. Now, it wouldn't be until 2 days later that the car would be found empty, bullet pierced, and drenched in blood. And then that's when a nationwide alarm went out and the police would set up roadblocks across half a dozen states. But by that time, Billy and his gun had hopped a bus and hitchhiked back to Blythe, California. Now, 3 days later, while in Blythe, a deputy named Homer Waldrip would go to someone's home who was known to be one of Billy's friends. And when the deputy went to the door, he knocked and there was nothing but silence. Then suddenly, the door would fly open and a man in a red shirt jumped out with a pistol in his hand. And it was Billy. What luck that was. He took Waldrip's pistol and ammunition belt, then would walk him out to his patrol car, told him to drive south into the desert. And just like that, Waldrop was Billy's next hostage. He would force Waldrop to drive him around aimlessly, just like he did with Carl. During the drive, Billy would brag to the deputy about how he murdered Carl and his family. Sounds like not very smart thing to do. I'm sure he was just trying to intimidate the officer, but still. Why do criminals have to brag before they're caught? You know what I mean? Whatever. After traveling for more than 40 miles, Billy made Waldrop stop the car and forced him to lie on his face down in the ditch. Billy had threatened to shoot Waldrop in the back of his head, but it never happened. Instead, Billy got back into the police car and drove away. Later, Billy would be asked why he didn't kill the deputy. Well, it just so happened that Billy had worked with a lady named Cecilia for a short time while in Blythe, and he said she was nice to me, treated me like a human being, and had been nicer than anyone had ever been to me in my life, end quote. And that woman was Deputy Waldrop's wife. So technically, his wife is what saved his life that day. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
You know, I did not see that part. I remember reading about somebody that he didn't kill, and it was asked, like, why didn't the guy try to run away when they were sleeping at night? And the guy said something like, he couldn't tell if he was actually asleep or not because of his eye, so he didn't try to get away, and that guy got let go. So I'm not sure all of the details that I've got are 100% accurate. I don't know a whole lot on this one particularly, but I've got quite a bit of information, so I do know some things. There is a lot of other videos. I watched several of them. But the other case that I wanted to talk about today, let me find my stuff here, is Charles Starkweather. Now, this was happening in, Billy Cook. I forgot his name there for a second. This case happened in the 1950s. Charles Starkweather, he was also born in the similar time period. He was born on November 24th, 1938 in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was one of 7 children from a working-class family. He was born with bowed legs, and he was mocked relentlessly. He had a speech impediment that he was also mocked for. He was severely nearsighted but refused to wear glasses. He dropped out of school at 16, and he worked as a garbage collector. He was obsessed with James Dean, and he tried to copy his attitude and look. He met Carl Ann Fugate in 1956 when she was 13 and he was 17. It was a possessive, volatile relationship, and her family disapproved vehemently of that relationship. His spree happened between January and February of 1958. So on January 21st, 1958, he murdered a gas station attendant, Robert Colvert. January 27th, he murdered Carlisle's mother, stepfather, and 2.5-year-old sister at home. That was the girlfriend's family. Carlisle, I don't think I'm saying her name. Carl, it's weird spelling. Let me put this in the chat. Maybe you guys can tell me. Carril, I don't know. Carril, maybe. Carril, right? Carril. But here's her full name. Carril Ann Fugate. Carol. That's how you spell Carol? Really? I've seen a lot of names and I'm like, with the weird spellings and stuff. That's the first time I've seen Carol, spelled with an I. That is weird. And yeah. It's a good thing I don't, have to say people's names for a living, right? Where is it? Where was I? Oh, yeah. So Carol Ann Fugate. So in January 27th, he murdered Carol's mother, stepfather, 2.5-year-old sister at their home. Carol stayed with him in the house for 6 days with the bodies. January 27th through the 29th, he killed August Mayer. It was a family friend. Then Robert Jensen and Carol King. Those were teenagers. On January 30th, he killed C. Lauer Ward, his wife Clara, and their maid Lillian Finkel. And so some of my facts are wrong. So he also fled Nebraska and was headed for Washington State. He killed a shoe salesman, Merle Collison, in Wyoming. He was captured after a high-speed chase near Douglas, Wyoming. He has a victim count of 11 victims in 8 days, or 10 if you count the child separately. But I still think that you have to count that. Starkweather was executed on June 25th, 1959, by the electric chair. Carol Ann Fugate was convicted as an accomplice. So this is where my actual research gets a little, I don't know if I can pull it up here, but I've been writing an actual, I'll probably post it in the next couple of days on my members only section. If you feel like reading it, it'll be more like a magazine article, and it will kind of cover more in depth on the volatile relationship with that woman, but she was 14 at the time of the murders, and she was the youngest female ever to be tried for first-degree murder in the U.S. This crime spree inspired Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska album, which I have not heard of, but there's a song called Badlands, No, it's the song Nebraska. There's a movie called Badlands that came out, and Natural Born Killers. Those were also inspired by this crime. Charles Starkweather, you guys, is one of those stories, and I might actually do a longer video on him. I think it's, an interesting case. With the Billy Cook story, I almost feel sorry for him. I don't feel sorry for him because he murdered a family, children. And, it's weird that Billy, he couldn't even just let the dog go. He had to kill the dog too. Not that I think the dog's life's more valuable than a human's or anything. It's just kind of shows how cruel the man was. Let me see. So this is Charles Starkweather. You can Google him and watch some videos on him. It's an interesting story. It really is. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible crime, like all true crime. Every case is horrible. I've been personally trying not to do so much research into that. I've done a lot of research already, and I've got a lot of stuff that I haven't used yet, but I've got stuff to make long form videos that I haven't even recorded yet. But I just been struggling with getting motivated to actually sit down and research killers. I think, I've taken a pretty long break, so I think I'm getting I'm feeling back to my old self again. But I just want to remind you guys that second-hand trauma, vicarious trauma by proxy, however you want to call it, all of those things, actually, will affect you the more cases that you read about and hear about. So it's good to take breaks, long breaks, watch a couple happy movies, things like that, to kind of clear your headspace, because, at some point, no matter how hard you try to compartmentalize or, approach it from an academic standpoint, so that, it's more like a surgical kind of thing that you're looking at, you're dissecting it into a certain structure or whatever. It doesn't matter. Eventually, it's kind of going to bleed over into your regular everyday life too. At least that's what's happened to me. So, but last month I got to, last month was hard because I spent almost every day, every free second I had, trying to revise my son's book, and I didn't think I was actually going to finish it before Christmas. And technically, I think I needed probably 6 more months. But I think in 6 months, it would have probably expanded even bigger. And, I don't know. It's writing true crime is easy. All the details are typically there. You've got a starting point. You've got an ending point. You just kind of fill in the facts and tell the story in a certain way. Even the cases without the, the final, whodunit, it's still, there's a structure to it that you can relate easily. You just want to, change it into your own words or whatever. But fiction is way different. Fiction, I like it better because I actually get to look inside of the characters' minds. I get to, make the decisions for my fictional characters based off of whatever, I don't know. I think I based a lot of stuff that I write about based off of things I've read in other books, or even like psychology especially is useful, even in fantasy books. The fantasy genre is harder than any other writing I've ever done because, most stories are some sort of tragedy, right? Like something normal is happening and then something changes, and that's the story typically. With fantasy, you have to build the world. Like, you don't have a box already made like you do with true crime. Even fiction, like horror fiction, you're still putting the characters in the world that we already know. Fantasy, you have to build this other world. You have to layer it with all of the stuff like, the economy, the politics, the traditions, all of it. You have to put it in there and make it unique to, I don't know, that was the hardest part of writing that. And then once you get your world built, then you get to kind of do the tragedy part. So in the story Elias Moon and the Sparrow's Call, it's really, it's kind of, I don't know. I guess this story has been done many different ways. It's the same fantasy story from all fantasy stories. A boy becomes, he's small and then he becomes big and powerful. But I think my story is different because the world I built is just unique. Well, mostly unique. It's kind of steampunk, kind of fantasy, kind of, it's got real math in it, real facts about there's these magical crystals. I researched types of crystals and I got their chemical makeup, and I use all of the facts that I possibly could use in my fantasy story. And I think it's pretty good, and I will eventually get back to writing it and finishing it. But I have been also writing horror, which is still easier on the heart than true crime. So that's what I've been doing lately. Let me see if I can get the trivia to pull up here. I got Molly, you can check out my book. There is a published version. I haven't taken it down yet, but just keep in mind it was for my son for his Christmas, as a Christmas present. So I don't feel as good about that story as I mean, I know there's mistakes in it, but I think the bones are there, and it should be at least readable, and you'll get the general idea of where it's going. But because it's paperback, I can't just change it. I purchased some ISBNs, so it's got a real barcode with a real ISBN, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's not worth reading. It's pretty good. I think my son will like it if he can actually read it. My son's 9, by the way, and I started this out. It was going to be like 2,000-3,000 words, and it was just going to be a basic story, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then I think my last rewrite, it kind of went from something for young kids to something for older kids, and it might be out of his reading level, but. So I did make a trivia game, if I can just get it to pull up here. Let me find it. Let me close that one. Oh, I do have one other thing we can look at before we do some trivia. Here we go. It's already there. Okay. I'm just pulling it up here. Boom. There we go. So hopefully this works whenever I click it. So this is the story Hard Luck, Billy Cook's story. And let me just see if it's shared. Yeah, it is. Okay, so it's got some good information in it. I'll also post a link to this. I found it this morning, and it's got a lot of really good information about Billy Cook's story. I'm going to kind of look through it real quick with you guys. Maybe there it is. So I don't like this name, Cockeyed Cook. I heard a couple other ones too, but this kind of covers a lot of what we talked about. It's got all of the basic facts, where he was born, when, all of it. Talks about his victims. And then it goes through a summary. This is William Cook Sr. From what I've gathered, he was a really violent drunk. And that is his mother's gravesite. This is the group home that he lived at. Like I said, I kind of feel sorry for him to a point. I don't think anyone should grow up the way that this man did. And I think people know that now, so it happens a little less frequently than it used to, but it still definitely happens. This is the Missouri State Penitentiary. That is not a very clear mugshot of Billy Cook, but you can kind of see his prisoner number 5772. So there is some good information in here, and I think you could probably find this information on Ancestry.com yourself, because you can't really read this document. This is where the bodies were buried. I'm going to skip over those images. They're kind of graphic. Sorry, guys. I think we showed this one already. But I'm kind of just skipping over these, some of these pictures. But that's Sam Quentin. You know, the robbery, like, I guess, you know, I just saw the 175 found in the child's wallet. That was an interesting fact, you know, because he killed these people, he robbed them, but he didn't find the $1.75 in the child's Hopalong Cassidy wallet. It's kind of a sad note, but nonetheless interesting. This is the gravesite for the Cook families at Peach Church Cemetery. It probably has a... Nope, it doesn't. I saw the pictures of the unmarked grave, and it's not really anything interesting to look at, to be honest. But so yeah. So here is the trivia. Let me get my camera back on. So hopefully you guys can see this. And I'm going to look in the chat, and you guys can tell me what you guys think the answer is. That way, when I get it wrong, I could just blame you guys. I'm just setting this up so I could see things better. I guess that's as good as it gets for me. Yeah, guys, I don't have Nightbot set up today because I'm using OBS, but please like and subscribe if you haven't. Share my content with other people. Hit the like button a lot, as much as you possibly can. You know, and if you feel like donating to my channel, there's super stickers you can buy, or you can donate through other stuff on my account, like Venmo or PayPal. I'm trying to get this up here where I could see the chat and my trivia questions, but it's not working great. So this one, Carl Pansram, was... Oh, wow. My chat just disappeared. Hold on. It didn't disappear. It just turned into a long horizontal rectangle instead. There we go. I think that will work. That should work. So Carl Pansram was so unrepentant that his last words to the hangman were an insult. What did he say? You guys can see that, right? See you in hell. All right. I can pick option 3 if you want. 4, 3, and 4. Well, I guess we'll go with 3 for now. So actually, it wasn't either. And yes, I knew that, but I wrote these, so I should know these. But Panzeram said, "Hurry up, you hoser bastard! I could kill 10 men while you're fooling around." This is also another interesting story that's very similar to the Cook case. I think the difference with this one is that he wrote a book. He actually befriended a young guard, and wrote a book. I think it was him. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if that was him. But I did research about 4 different cases when I was planning to talk about somebody who wrote a book about Billy Cook rather than the Billy Cook story. So I've got all of these things here. All right, so which survivor outsmarted her captor by memorizing details of his car and home while blindfolded, later becoming a sheriff's deputy dedicated to helping victims? Now, I know this one has been in my regular trivia because I've talked about this several times, so I think you guys should know this one. So are we on this question now, or is this Jennifer Absenson? All right. So I guess we're talking about 3. I guess I'll go ahead and click it. No. It was Lisa McVeigh, survived 26 hours of captivity by serial killer Bobby Joe Long in 1984. She was blindfolded, but she still memorized the sounds and the textures to identify his location. The guy in Alaska, you mean Robert Hansen? Jeffrey Dahmer. I've got 48 questions here. Like at least 15 of them actually have to do with music trivia because of this Billy Cook case. Jeffrey Dahmer was nearly caught in 1991 when police returned a bleeding, naked 14-year-old boy to his custody. What did Dahmer tell the officers to convince them to leave? You know, Maribel, it's actually okay if you get them wrong. There's a lot of cases that are very similar, and it's hard to remember all of the details all the time. I think if you go through and you're looking at cases and you refamiliarize yourself with them, then you would remember them. But if you hadn't thought about this case in years, you wouldn't, or months even, or weeks, you may not even remember. So this is one of the worst aspects of the Dahmer case. The police could have caught him that night. That boy was, his brain was ruined, and he probably would have never recovered, but he would have survived if the police hadn't put the boy back into Jeffrey Dahmer's custody. So, and I'm going to go ahead and go with Maribel's answer. Yes. So he had escaped Dahmer's apartment after being drugged and partially lobotomized. That is so disturbing. But he told officers that it was a lover's quarrel, and they didn't even check Dahmer's background. He was a registered sex offender. They didn't go to the apartment. If they had of, they would have seen the partially chopped up body that was decomposing in there. I felt that I had power over his life and death. I was God, which American serial killer admitted saying this during his confessions. Anyone know this one? So, Ogle, you got almost blocked by the chat. It said, it gave me a thing that asked if it was okay. I don't know why it thinks it's offensive, but... John Wayne Gacy was the one who murdered 33 young men in the 70s, and he made statements about feeling absolutely in control. In interviews and in his writing, he admitted feeling like a god because he held life and death power over his victims. See, here's some trivia. I don't know how much heavy metal you guys listen to. I listened to it more when I was younger, but obviously heavy metal is going to have a lot more songs about death, you know, especially if you consider the term death metal, right? And I think that's where Slayer's genre is. It's death metal or speed metal. There's like a million different kinds of heavy metal, apparently. But Slayer's song Dead Skin Mask is about which Wisconsin killer whose crimes inspired 3 major films: Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs. I know you guys know this one. Ed Gein was the quiet farmer in Plainville, Wisconsin, who shocked the nation in 1957 when the police discovered he had been grave robbing and murdering women. And he was fashioning household items into clothing and furniture. He had a leather mask made from human skin. So the Rolling Stones' Midnight Rambler, with Mick Jagger's harmonica mimicking a victim's breathing, was inspired by which 1960s strangler? So this one looks kind of easy, but maybe it's not. You can't see the choices. Let me see. You can't, well, you should be able to see them. Is it blurry? Is that what's happening? We got the Zodiac Killer, the Boston Strangler, the Hillside Strangler, and Richard Speck. 2. Yep, it was the Boston Strangler. Albert DeSalvo confessed to being the Boston Strangler who killed 13 women between this 1962 and 64. Jagger and Keith Richards wrote the song while in Italy, drawn to the case's combination of sexuality and violence. Jagger has performed the song with a belt, sometimes whipping the stage. Ted Bundy escaped custody twice before his final capture. During his second escape, he fled to which state where he committed his final murders? You think it's Florida, Olga? I think that's right. After escaping from Colorado courthouse in December of 1977, Bundy made his way to Florida, where he attacked students at Florida State University's Chi Omega sorority house in January 1978, killing 2 women. He later murdered a 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. He was executed in Florida by the electric chair. Oh, it only lets you play like 10 questions, but there's 48 answers. 48 questions. So I made this trivia with the help of AI, so it's kind of broken. I wanted it to, every time I pick the new one, it's basically HTML code. So it's kind of simple. It's not a complex game or anything. But because I wanted it to show random questions every time I opened it, I think I messed it up because it was supposed to go through all of them. Aileen Wuornos was executed in 2002. Which one? She was one of America's rare female serial killers. What was her occupation when she committed her murders? 2, highway prostitute. Okay. Yep. Wuornos killed 7 men along Florida highways between 1989 and 1990, claiming self-defense against clients who raped or attempted to rape her. She was arrested when pawn shop records linked her victims to the belongings. She was executed by lethal injection. The earliest record recorded school shooting in what is now the United States occurred in 1764 during Pontiac's rebellion. What was the name of the schoolmaster killed in this attack? See, this one I actually don't even remember, and I just wrote it a couple days ago. I think on Friday night. 2, Enoch Brown. Yep. On July 26, 1764, 4, Lenape warriors, I don't know if I said that right, entered a one-room schoolhouse near Greencastle, Pennsylvania, and killed schoolmaster Enoch Brown along with 9 or 10 of his students. Only 2 children survived, one by playing dead. A memorial still stands at the massacre site in Franklin County, Pennsylvania. Kara Robinson was kidnapped by serial killer Richard Avantes in 2002. How long was she held captive before escaping? I think I've covered this one on my channel before. Hey, Molly, the trivia question is Kara Robinson was kidnapped by a serial killer, Richard Avantes, I think I'm saying that right, in 2002. How long was she held captive for? Anyone know? So this case, with another one that we covered in the trivia just a while ago, are one of the rare times that somebody actually escapes when they get captured by these killers. But the 15-year-old was abducted. Oh, that wasn't one of the options. Sorry, I should have read the options. 12 hours, 18 hours, 48 hours, or 1 week. But it was she was 15 years old when she was abducted from a friend's yard. During her 18 hours of captivity, she memorized every detail of Avantes' apartment and car while he slept she escaped to identify him, and Evantes killed himself during the manhunt. And Kara Robinson later joined the FBI. And we already did this one. Does anyone remember this one? Carl Panzeram was so unrepentant that his last words to the hangman were an insult. What did he say? Hurry up, you hoser bastard. I could kill 10 men while you're fooling around. Eric Clapton's 1992 Grammy-winning song Tears in Heaven was written about a real tragedy, the death of his 4-year-old son. How did Connor Clapton die? Yeah, he fell from a window on the on March 20th, 1991, 4-year-old Connor Clapton fell from the 53rd floor of a New York City apartment building after a janitor left the window open while cleaning. Clapton channeled his grief into Tears of Heaven, which won 3 Grammy Awards. He also later stopped performing it live, saying he had to move on. I think we just did this one, but it's another version of that question. Do you guys remember this one? Which survivor outsmarted her captor? But I don't know. I think I might have had a couple of these wrong. Lisa McVeigh. I thought there was 2, but they're like so similar. It's hard to remember. Let me see if I can find out the story of Eric Clapton. I don't mind double checking. Trying to find the actual. In the New York Times, it says a 49 story fall. So let me see if I can sign in. I don't have my phone. Dang it. I have a subscription to the New York Times, but it's not letting me sign in. So I can't actually view this. So I think I could share this. Let me just wait for it to populate, and then we could read the actual article real quick. Shoot. I don't think it's going to let me. I think the only way I can do it is. Let me try that. Let me see. Did it change? Yeah. So let me zoom in. It did change. So I'm just trying to zoom it in and turn that off, and boom, there we go. So this is from the New York Times from 1991. Hopefully you guys could read that. Eric Clapton's son was killed in he fell from his apartment window. I don't know where. I saw several documents about it. Was the 53rd floor. But, I mean, it also says, I guess maybe 49-story fall is the actual distance, but it says right here also that it was the 53rd floor. So the 4.5-year-old son of the rock guitarist Eric Clapton was killed yesterday morning when he fell out of an open bedroom window on the 53rd floor of a Manhattan apartment building. The boy, Connor, was dressed in red pajamas and slippers, landed on the roof of a 4-story building next to Galleria Condominiums, a 57-story building where the boy was staying with his mother, police said. They said the window was about 6 feet high and 4 feet wide. It was left open after it was cleaned by a housekeeper. The boy, who was not in the room, during the cleaning, darted past the housekeeper and somehow fell out the window, which was not protected by a window guard, the police said. At this point, it seems as if this was a tragic accident. A police spokesman, Captain Stephen Davis, said that. Besides the housekeeper, the boy's mother, Lori Del Santo, an Italian television actress, was in the duplex with the maid and a friend, the police said. Mr. Clapton, the founder of the rock group Cream and... what is that? Cream and Derek? I've never heard of that band. And the Dominoes was in New York on vacation. He doesn't live with Miss Del Santo, but went to the apartment after being called by a friend, the police said. Mr. Davis said that the health department was investigating whether the condominium was in violation of city regulations requiring window guards in apartments where children under 12 live. So this is from the New York Times. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's accurate. My first thought was that maybe somebody pushed him out the window, but it really doesn't sound like that if you read this kind of information. So let's get back to this. I'll do a couple more of these. Trivia questions. But that's just like a little side note. You know, every time I'm researching one thing, I end up researching a bunch of other things. So I don't know, when you find out little bits of information, there's always more questions, you know. It happens to me a lot too. Turn that back on, and there we go. Hopefully you guys could still see that. Yep, it looks like it. The Unabomber Ted Kaczynski evaded the FBI for 17 years. Who ultimately identified him? I know the song Layla. I don't know In the White House. At least I don't recognize the title. His brother recognized his manifesto language. When newspapers published Kaczynski's 35,000-word manifesto in 1995, his brother David and sister-in-law recognized Ted's distinctive writing style, and that's how he got caught. John Wayne Gacy buried most of his 33 victims in the crawl space beneath his house. What was his day job that gave him access to young men? This is a kind of a trick question because I know most people think of John Wayne Gacy as a clown, but he also had another job. Mall security guard. Gacy ran PDM contractors and often hired teenage boys and young men for construction work. Many of his victims were employees or job applicants. His community involvement, including performing as Pogo the Clown, masked his crimes until 1978. I saw that, Tori, you changed your question. That's okay. So, which serial killer was known for escaping custody twice and represented himself at his own murder trial? I think this one everyone should know. I mean, we did kind of cover it already once. I'm going to give you like 5 more seconds. That's what I need here is a timer. You have to answer. Molly says Ted. That is correct. Ted Bundy escaped custody twice before his final capture. He studied law and notoriously represented himself at trial in Florida. He murdered at least 30 women in the 70s under using his charm and fake injuries to lure them in. And we also did this one just a little while ago. The Rolling Stones' Midnight Rambler with Mick Jagger's harmonica mimicking a victim's breathing was inspired by which 60s strangler? The Zodiac Killer, the Boston Strangler, the Hillside Strangler, or Richard Speck? Albert DeSalvo confessed to being the Boston Strangler who killed 13 women in the 60s. Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer, had an unusual relationship with law enforcement. Where did he often socialize with police officers? His mother's workplace, a bar called the Jury Room, local shooting range, police softball league. Tori says 2. Kemper's standing 6'9" and highly intelligent, frequented the Santa Cruz bar, popular with off-duty cops. He discussed local murders with the officers who had no idea he was a killer. When he finally confessed by phone after killing his mother, police thought he was joking. The Columbine massacre on April 20th, 1999, killed 13 people. What date were the shooters originally planning to carry out the attack? April 19th, Oklahoma City anniversary. April 20th, Hitler's birthday. The date didn't matter. They planned around bomb timers. They had no specific date until that week. Anyone know? Oops. Tori, do you know the answer? Olga says 2. All right, we'll go with the date didn't matter. They planned around bomb timers was the correct answer. Is 2 right? I think they killed people on April 20th. I think the key part of the question is what were the shooters originally planning to carry the date out on. So I don't think April 20th counted as their planned for Hitler's birthday. Despite the widespread belief they chose April 20th for Hitler's birthday, investigators found no evidence this was intentional. Their journals show how they originally planned for April 19th. Their primary plan was actually a bombing. They planted propane bombs timed for lunch. When the bombs failed, they resorted to firearms. So maybe that wasn't actually a very well-worded question. The Boomtown Rats, 1979 hit I Don't Like Mondays, was written by Bob Geldof after watching news coverage of a 16-year-old who shot at an elementary school. When asked why she did it, what was her infamous reply? You know, I wrote this question. I don't remember the answer. I think it is. I think it is 1, but you know, it kind of. They don't like. I Don't Like Mondays is the name of the song. On January 29th, 1979, Brenda Spencer used a rifle her father had given her for Christmas to fire at Cleveland Elementary School from her bedroom window. When a reporter called and asked why, she casually replied, "I don't like Mondays." This livens up the day. Bob Geldof heard the story and wrote the song that same day. So we did this one already. I felt that I had power over his life and death. I was God. And I'm drawing a blank. I think it's either Gary Ridgway or Richard Speck. John Wayne Gacy. Oh, yeah. We'll skip that one. So I'm trying to get to the ones we haven't done yet. Anyway, but in the 27 bath school disaster in Michigan, 38 children and 6 adults were killed, more than Sandy Hook. Why is this often left off the list of school shootings? This was in 1927. It occurred before record keeping. The killer used explosives, not firearms. The school board treasurer, Andrew Kehoe, detonated explosives he secretly planted under the Bath Consolidated School. He had murdered his wife and destroyed his farm before the attack. Kehoe was angry about property taxes used to fund the school. All right, so this is going to be the last one. I think I'm going to end with this one, and it's a good question too. H.H. Holmes is often called America's first serial killer. What was unique about the building he constructed in Chicago during the 1893 World's Fair? Olga, are you talking about the H.H. Holmes case? So I'm thinking there might be some lag between when I see your guys' comments and when I'm actually saying the question. He had underground tunnel systems. It contained a custom-built murder castle with the gas chambers and chutes. It was built on a Native American burial ground. It housed a secret opium den. Holmes designed the Chicago hotel with soundproof rooms, gas lines he could control from his office, chutes leading to the basement, a kiln for disposing of the bodies. He constantly switched construction crews so no one understood the building's full layout. You can't see it? I don't know. I guess the stream might be going blurry or something. It says everything still looks good, but I don't know. Today I am using OBS, which I have never used before. It doesn't show me how long I've been streaming either, which is weird. But so I think we've been live for a while. Let me see if I can pull it up here. You can see all that. It still doesn't tell me how long we've been live. Well. Can you see this? Today this popped up on my Facebook. And
nice to meet you, Brett. Where are you from?
this is my now 9-year-old. This is our hallway from the living room to the playroom. It's our second living room over there. But that kid was super cute as a baby. He's still cute.
Well, thanks. You're too nice. I am called.
All right, guys. So, yeah, Tori, I just can't afford StreamYard. It's like $88 a month, and I don't even use all of the features. It's weird. And if I don't pay for any of the features, I can't show anything on my live stream. It's kind of weird how much it costs, and it's always glitchy too. And you can't do a lot of the stuff that you can do with OBS, but I don't know how to get the stream to be more like less blurry. My internet's pretty fast here, so I don't get it. Maybe I can lower the quality down to 720 or something. But I think even my image of me looks a little clearer when I use OBS also. So, but yeah, that baby, he was my first kid. I was a stay-at-home dad for 5 years. His first 5 years, I actually stopped working about a month before he was born to get ready. I read probably 2 or 3 dozen different books on parenting and how to manage children, and none of it worked. I mean, it's weird. Like all of this stuff in there and all of the parenting books, it's good information to have for a background, but there is no cookie cutter for kids. Even when I had my second son, I was expecting, my first son, it was easy, my second son was completely opposite. He was very hard, I didn't even expect it to be more difficult. I thought I already knew everything there was to know about kids having one, but I learned my lesson. 2 kids is different than 1 kid in more than just the obvious ways, because your first kid is going to be bigger, and he's going to know that you're dealing with a crying baby and can get into stuff without getting caught. And everything that worked for my first son didn't work with my second son. It was a really difficult first 9 months or so for me with the second one. But after that, it got better, and it just kept getting better and better. And I don't know, I miss my kids a lot. But we used to, if I would have thought about it, I know I'm on YouTube now, but at the time I was worried that people would see my kids and use the videos for bad things, because people are weird. But if I had actually thought about it, I think I would have gotten monetized a long time ago, just like showing the life of my kids growing up, because we did all of this stuff that people do in videos now for fun without filming it. We had like toys that we played with, and, we had cooking sets and doctors' costumes and, a jungle gym, trampolines, all of that stuff. And my kids had a lot of fun growing up, and I think they had more fun with all of the stuff that they had. They actually had more fun going outside in the front yard, even just digging in the dirt, playing with their dump trucks. I got them when they were like 2 years old. But my ex never believed me that they loved that stuff. She always like, they have to go here, they have to go do something else. But, when I was a kid, I played cars in the dirt, and that was a lot of fun. So I just let them play, get dirty a little bit. We had rain suits and stuff like that. We even had snow suits that became mud suits, because if you're in Alaska, the worst time of year is when the snow melts from the winter time before. Everything turns to mud. And so 2 little kids still need to go outside despite the weather, and I would let them go out. They would have their snow suits on over their jackets, and they had rain boots on. Well, actually, I think they still wore their snow boots for that, but they were waterproof, so they could go splash through the wet, muddy puddles, and, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I don't know. I miss them a lot. I'm going to see them in February, and hopefully it gets better. But, people are people, and my kid's mother is a person, so you can only imagine what I have to deal with. So I can't really talk about it. So anyways, guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate you all. Make sure you're hitting the like button and all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.